On behalf of the Upshur County Commission, I'd like to welcome everyone, to include the City Council from the City of Buckhannon, to this joint meeting relative to a presentation by Buckhannon Upshur High School students relative to a recreation center they propose. We will have two government bodies here. Now, the County Commission, I will open the program, so to speak, by going through a normal procedure we do in the Commission every Thursday when we meet, or in this case, it's a special meeting, which will call upon us to have a moment of silent meditation and prayer, and then we will do the Pledge of Allegiance, at which time I will then defer to Mayor Edwards from the Buckhannon City. So if you would please rise. We don't do this in Commission chambers, but because of the occasion, I think it would be proper. I will open this session of the Upshur County Commission. We will begin with a moment of silent meditation and prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag is in this direction. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you again, Mayor.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. It's my pleasure, on behalf of the City of Buckhannon and the City Council, to call to order this special meeting of the Buckhannon City Council. Having said that, we have our agendas for our City Council, and that includes a presentation from our high school students concerning a recreational complex or recreational center. It's my pleasure to do so tonight with our friends from the County Commission, who have been very supportive of this program since it was brought to us more than 8 months ago by some citizens from the community who had already put a project together last summer with West Virginia Wesleyan College. I'm not going to steal their thunder because I'm going to introduce them to you here in a few minutes. What I do want to do is give you the opportunity to realize the uniqueness of the situation in the meeting that you're in tonight, where you have two governmental bodies standing as a whole, which could actually make decisions if they chose to do so. The opportunity for our youth tonight is to express some of the desires from your aspect that you can get across to these two governmental bodies that will give you perhaps the power in the future to help realize the goals that you're looking for. Now, this is a recreation complex. I hope in the future that your student council looks at other big issues within our community, hunger, homelessness, whatever it may be, but this is a great way for you to do so. So having said that, I would like to introduce the folks that actually came to the City Council and the County Commission and ask them to give you a few insights on how this came about and why it is we're sitting in front of you tonight. I would like to introduce Dr. Joseph Freed, Mrs. Joyce Harris-Thacker, and Idris Gooden, and Mrs. Wamsley, the student advisor. I would ask any one of you to come forward and give us an idea of how this all started and why you came to the two governmental bodies on this. I do want to add, this would not be possible without their cooperation and help, and I might add tenaciousness by one of our illustrious doctors to make sure that this program came across as the way it should tonight. So please, you have the floor.
I'll start. Last year we had the Try This conference. We had over 400 people here from all over the states offering ideas. Idris and Joyce and Idris's husband Dave. I sat down at the end of the conference and said, what can we do? And we decided there were two topics that we thought there was some possibility of doing something for. One was to get the City Council and the County Commission to resume their meetings together. The second was, how can we help the young people to feel empowered to make suggestions to us as a community for things that would benefit the students and would benefit the county and the city in their efforts. In working things through, I've learned the difficulties of getting two bodies together to do things. But we've overcome at least part of that. I don't know all of it. And I don't know all of the things that are behind it, but that's how things developed.
I'll just add to that, while we were at that conference, and it's called Try This West Virginia, and it was sponsored by Our Kids, Our Future. And all the cities and counties and communities around our state came together at that time, hosted by West Virginia Wesleyan College, and we were very proud to have it here in Buckhannon and at Wesleyan, and we'll be hosting it again June 5th and 6th, I believe that is. So if any of you would like to attend, please do that. It's an opportunity for us to see what other communities were doing across the state and gather ideas, and maybe we could do things better. I was very proud, and as always, of Buckhannon and Upshur County, because I think in many respects we're head and shoulders above lots of folks. But at that time, and just to give you a little history, I'm a former county commissioner, and Dr. Reed had asked, how could we do this? And I said, well, when I was commissioner, the city and the county met once a month, and then I think we moved to once a quarter. But that was our opportunity to get together and talk about how we could, help each other, and in the long run, make this a better community to live in. So that was the idea that we had, and to get our students involved in government at county and city level is a great educational experience for them. And then to also, bring your ideas forth so that they can bloom in our community. And many times it takes both of our governments working together, our Board of Education, our students, our community, and our families to make things happen. And I've found that there's a great team in this community. I'm very proud to be part of the efforts, and I can't wait to hear what our students have to say to us tonight.
Dr. Reed brought this idea to me. He called me on the phone and asked me if I was student council advisor, which I had just recently taken over with my co-advisor, Mr. Wilson, this year. And he had said, can we do something where we bring the students in to involve them with the governmental level? And I said, that's a great opportunity. It's a great learning experience. And when we got into our meeting, we started talking about he wanted the students to find a way to improve the community. And we threw out some ideas of the ways they could possibly do this, and then we wanted to take it back to the students because we wanted this to be student-led. Because in the high school, one thing that I've seen, I'm a newer teacher and I'm younger at it, but the school is very separated from the community. And we've been working in the past few years to change that, other than sports, to bring in the community and get lots more involvement. And then since I've been there, I've seen a lot of amazing changes with that. And this is a really good way for the students to have a voice in the community, to not just be students, but to show that they can be professionals and that they can have ideas and be leaders. And let them have their voice heard, because too many times students think that what they say isn't heard. Although their teachers hear it and take it to heart, sometimes it doesn't go past those walls. And this is that opportunity for them to go past those school walls and be heard in the community. And they have some amazing ideas that they're going to present to you. And we kind of gave them the reins and said, facilitated them and guided them along the way. But this has really been a student-led project and not a teacher-led project.
I think it's only fair that you understand that she has taken her student council. They came up with ideas, floated them out to the entire student body, and I understand some of the middle school, right, and some of the elementary schools as well for input. They voted on what to talk about.
They did.
And now the student council members have developed these points. So it's not just 4 or 5 students presenting their ideas. It's ideas from the entire student body. And I think those who will win from this are the students themselves, but more likely people like babies I just took care of at the hospital who will grow up here. And I warned the students, don't expect all this to happen overnight or this year. It's going to take time, it's going to take input, it's going to take money and actions, both by the two bodies and by the Board of Education. And by citizens at large to make things happen. And it won't be exactly as they present, I'm sure.
And I think it's been a great learning experience for our students because they have went to city council meetings and county commission meetings, and they've attended those, and they've actually came back with, we saw this happen and this is how we want to take our presentation. So it's a learning environment and a learning experience that they really can't get anywhere else. I mean, it's that real world, real life learning experience, and it's probably changed most of these students for the future and changed what they're going to do with their lives. So I think it's an amazing opportunity. I want to thank Dr. Reed for kind of helping us get this and coming to me with and allowing me to be a part of this opportunity for my students.
And I hope all of you learned something tonight too.
Thank you.
Well, I can't even top that. As you can see, there's been a lot of effort and a lot of work that have gone in, and energy, not just from our bodies, but of course from the student body in itself. So having said that, I can't add anything to that, but what I will do is recognize, I assume it's going to be our student president, leader president?
Actually going to start with something.
Michaela, McKinnon, that's McKinnon, right? Yeah. I will leave the floor to McKinnon.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to start off by thanking everyone for the opportunity. Mrs. Walmsley put it very well. This is a community involvement. This isn't just about the students of Student Council. This isn't just about the students of Buckhannon High School. This is about the community. It's not just Buckhannon, it's not just Elmore, it's not just one part. It's getting all of Upshur County together. We felt that Upshur County kind of feels separated from each other. They feel that they have knit communities and there isn't one centralized idea. And to have community involvement or to have somewhere to take your children or tutoring or anything like that, you have to go farther than the reaches of Upshur County. You have to go to Fairmont or Morgantown or Bridgeport. And really that doesn't create the sense of community we're trying to find. So what we've brought together with Upshur County and the high school and the middle school and elementary schools and even the senior center was to have a community rec center. And I would like to ask Preston to come up and start us off with that.
Well, I'm going to kind of repeat what she said a little bit there. It's kind of an honor to be up here speaking in front of the Joint Commission and Council meeting here, and to see everybody out here for their support. It's really good to see that. And we've been approached by several different members, Dr. Reed, Mr. Mayor, and I've attended county commission meetings and city council meetings, and I've gotten a lot of really good experience there, kind of figuring out how things are done in government bodies and how to present things, and kind of that's what we've done here. We've had a lot of student input, like just repeating what we've talked about already. A lot of time and effort has been put in by the different members of our student council for this presentation. Like it's been set up here already, we've talked with our student body and gotten their ideas. We've really taken their ideas and put it here, and that's what we're here to present to you guys. So without any further ado, I think we'll get started with our presentation. Come on. And before we start, I am Preston Surface. I am the student body president at Buckhannon Upshur High School.
I'm Tom Cotto III. I'm president of Educators Rising.
I'm Lily Higgs. I'm the junior class treasurer. I'm Caitlin Critchfield. I'm the junior class vice president.
And I'm McKenna Poling, and I'm the senior class vice president.
And this presentation is titled Center of the Community, because it's really what we're trying to attain here is a community center, kind of a play on words, a community center that builds a center of community. So, without further ado, kind of like sketch that. I don't know, can you guys see?
You're on this side.
Yeah, you guys can move over here if you can't see.
Yeah, we're kind of technically different.
Okay, John. Go over there.
Camera can't see it either.
Is that better?
It's gonna get distorted a little bit.
This is one of the visions we had here, kind of for what the outside would look like. It's very similar to rec centers built by multiple different universities throughout the state, throughout the country, by different cities and states. You kind of can see there, that's kind of what like the outside will look like.
And also, throughout our presentation, you'll notice we're really trying to focus on indoor activities because, as you know, living in Upshur County, there's quite a bit of climate change, not always for the better. And so students and other people alike really want a sense, 4 seasons to be able to go and play and do their thing. So that's what we're trying to focus on.
So first we started out with some problems that we have in the community. With youth, drug and alcohol abuse is always a big one that people try to tackle, and social isolation issues, and kids go home after school and they don't really do much unless they're involved directly with an athletic program. They kind of just go home and sit on the couch, watch television, sit on their smartphones all day. I'm sure everybody's seen that happen. But we've tried to conquer that issue by building this center, or trying to get this center built. A lot of students lack time management skills, and they really don't have a lack of guidance. And we'll get to how we can solve these problems later in the presentation. Problems within the community for adults, specifically for the community center kind of style issues, is they have a problem finding local activities for their children. Now, we have a lot of athletic opportunities, but not really any opportunities to like go and get tutored or go study somewhere. And that is available at the high school. It's just it's not taken advantage of the way it should be. So,
Yes. Also, going with the polls and the different things like that, we actually took one of the Buckhannon Upshur High School teachers and asked them what do they think the problems are. Since they see the kids, they see the adults, they have a good idea of what the problems are. And these are really what they came up with. They thought the lack of community involvement. They see the knit communities, they don't see the centralized Upshur County. And that goes with the rest of them. And adult obesity and inactivity. I'm not sure if all of you know, but we are tied with Mississippi for the fattest state in America. And it's really has to do a lot with location. There's not a lot you can do. You can't walk to the store, you have to drive. And that cuts into our daily routine. We don't have a lot of time to go out and exercise and eat as we would like to. And so to have somewhere where 4 seasons you can come and you can take a walk or you can go out with your children and have that sense of community, have that sense of health is a great idea.
another thing is another one of our big focuses in this project were the help with students. It's not just for the youth, it's actually for everybody, but we really tried to focus on students here when we conducted our surveys at the school with the teachers and the student body. And one of the things that we found is our students need some more guidance and more tutoring opportunities and athletic opportunities outside the school system, not specifically being on a sports team outside of the school system, but recreational sports. So that's another thing we tried to focus on. And like I was just saying, it's not just for the youth. We have approximately 5,700 residents in Buckhannon and 19,200 others throughout Upshur County. So this center would serve all of these residents. The benefits of having a recreation center is a recreation center would provide jobs, 1. 2, it would provide benefits to the park and recreation appeal of Upshur County and Buckhannon. It would increase home values, improve health, and increase local tourism from areas like Elkins or Webster County area, such as the areas in Clarksburg where people from Buckhannon actually travel to do things like this. A pretty good quote I saw was from the American Planning Association, the City Parks Forum. It said, "Parks and Rec provide intrinsic environmental, aesthetic, and recreation benefits to our cities. They are also a source of positive economic benefits, and they enhance property values, increase municipal revenue, bring in home buyers and workers, and attract retirees." Which that kind of hits on a lot of points with our community. We have a lot of retirees now living in Buckhannon, and we have projected and prospective workers coming. Another thing would be increasing home values. I'm sure everybody would love to do that. Go ahead with this one.
All right. And also just to touch on what has previously been said, West Virginia is our biggest attraction is tourism. So to have somewhere that we've been talking about community involvement, but what about outside of the community? Have somewhere that doesn't have a place to go also. And so Upshur County is just a hop, step, and a jump away. and so that they can come here and we can attract people not just from the county but surrounding as well. And also we put together a mock blueprint. A lot of people on our student council team have worked with that to try to focus what we've had ideas brought to us. We've had, let's have a yoga and Pilates studios for the senior center. Let's have an indoor pool so that we can have swim practice for both the college and the high school. And maybe even start a water polo team. I don't know. And we're thinking spring 2016 that we can begin construction. That's a little bit of that's soon. It's very soon to think about it right then. And we understand that maybe 2016, that's just when we found a contractor who said, okay, I don't think your idea is crazy. I'll help you with that. So the idea comes in little bits and pieces. We have to have plans, we have to have blueprints, we have to have a contractor, and most importantly, we have to have money.
Yeah. Now, again, what we were talking about earlier is we did conduct surveys at the high school. That was a big one. And when we got our feedback, people wanted indoor activities, such as an indoor track and field facility, an indoor pool, a place to just go hang out and relax. And so what we've had my associate Tom Codal here do is construct a mock blueprint of kind of what we want inside. And I'm gonna pass the mic here to him and have him explain what is on the inside, what we would like to see. And like I said, all these ideas, they have come from the student body, they've come from the student body at the middle school, and they've come from various community members.
So we want to move that over a little bit. I need to move right that way a little bit. Go ahead. A little better.
Yeah, that's better.
All right, so I'd like to start out by saying I did not go to architect school or anything like that. So this is a very, very rough draft at first. As you can see right, Kenny, you want to point out kind of where I'm at. The middle of which is the entrance, up middle, right in the middle. There you go. I don't have my laser pointer today, so it's kind of difficult. But you walk in at first, and your worker's office is towards the left. That's where you would check in, or if you want to purchase your tickets or passes or whatever it may be. And if you swing left, that is the pool hallway, in which I kind of got that from the Morgantown Center off of WVU's campus. The two locker rooms lead into the pool. This is a pretty large pool area. This is the long length of the pool is mostly for our swim teams, splashes and such. But there's also like kids and other areas such as like our high school kind of has when it veers off a little bit. So that's the area where there could be like little slides or such things like that, for not only for our swimmers to use, but also our children who like to swim. And off that, we kind of have the relaxation center. From the pool area, we have a few hot tubs and things like that. And in the very back, we have the saunas or the steam rooms for our both men and women. Kind of big area you see is the sports courts. There's 4 of those, which you think that's a lot of sports courts. But when you have such things as indoor soccer, travel volleyball, basketball tournaments is usually the most popular one. 4 courts, you often see you can have a lot more teams enter and a lot more teams participate from around the state and from other states as well that come in. Those are all separated by a curtain, not a wall, so that's very convenient. So if we wanted to have some sort of dance or activity or such, we can pull the curtain back actually to have more space lengthwise. So that's not just one little area connected by a wall, it's much more space if needed. Below those sports courts are like dance and yoga area. This is the senior center recommended this area for us. So that's a lot more space than what Soccer Youth has in their gym. So if somebody has yoga classes or the dance instructors or such, that would be a room for them to have as well. At the very bottom, we have our turf practice field, and you're probably thinking, well, we just spent $800,000 on a practice or on a turf field, but there is an organization that actually builds these for a much, much, much lesser cost. And it's a turf field, and it has a track around it, so that would be great for indoor track and such events like that. You want to point at like the arcade room kind of thing. That was one of the biggest feedbacks that we got from our students, was somewhere where they could like have a lounge room or an arcade room, somewhere where they could play ping pong or ballards or anything like that. somewhere just to hang out and chill on like bean bags and such, watching TV and such. We have a set of stairs and elevator leading up to the second floor. First, this is somewhat of the design that we had for the pool area. As you can see, there's areas for children to do their thing, swim, and the lengthwise of the pool is used for swimmers throughout the course of the period. Now for the second floor. Okay. So the biggest thought going into our second floor was this was where the academics would be. So we wouldn't want that on the first floor because if you had sports going on at the time, then you would have a distraction because there'd be noises everywhere. So the second floor is strictly academics. As you can see, we have a large library and study hall leading into a computer lab. That design we took from our actual high school. We just got two brand new computer labs built into our library, and that is very useful. So that would be a great opportunity to have in this center as well. Staying on that side, we have our 2 restrooms and storage and maintenance. And then below that is another lounge area. This area is mostly for sort of like a study hall for kids who need tutoring or whatever. It's not going to be the lounge area, like I said, downstairs, where it's going to be like a hangout spot. This is going to be used for educational purposes and academics for people to go study or be tutored and such. Across the hall, there is conference rooms. We have 3 of which one could be such a presentation room, mostly the larger one. You would probably go with that. These conference rooms can be used for pretty much any purpose necessary. If you have an organization such as the school that needs to meet with the representatives throughout the state or such, these would be great places to do those at. And that is a picture of the library such that we would like to kind of get through. A place that's up to date and not kind of like old school down low, so kids would actually enjoy hanging out there and getting their academics up as well.
So touching on all the things he said, we do have these conference rooms, and those can attract. What McKenna was talking about earlier is a tourism thing. Let's say you have a business that would like an oil and gas business, for example. They want to have a conference, like a business conference. Well, instead of going to Charleston or Morgantown or Parkersburg maybe, Buckhannon could provide a great opportunity to do that. Bring in a business conference and you create business. And how you do that is they have to eat every night, so they might go out to a different restaurant or we have somebody cater it. And that would provide business and more job opportunities for people within the community. And that's just another way that this center could bring the community together. So that's just another thing, just kind of off the side there, kind of what he was talking about. And next, we have our fiscal aspects of the community, or the community center. Other projects similar to the proposed Upshur County Recreational Center have approximately cost anywhere from $5 to $8 million. Now it's quite the figure, but it is an achievable goal. And would you guys like to on the grants?
My people that I met with, we all came up with different grants that we could apply for throughout, nationally. There's a lot of different ones available to us because we're hitting so many different aspects with the athleticism and the educational and just improving the community. So we have the Let's Play initiative, the out of school time physical activity, the Good Sports Equipment Grant, and the Lowe's Charitable and Educational Foundation. These are just 4 or 5 of many, many grants that we found. We know that this is going to cost a lot. So applying for these grants will be a great thing, and we could really raise a lot of money with it. All of these are renewable, and they are worth quite a bit of money. And we have a few grant writers here in the community. Who are they?
Mrs. Connie Scarborough.
Mrs. Connie Scarborough has raised a lot of money through grants, and she could help us with the grant writing, and it would be a really great way to hit the money aspect of this, because it's going to be a lot of money. But
I would just like to say that Mrs. Scarborough in our community has raised over $1 million personally for the agricultural aspects of the schooling. So just to say that one person has raised that on her own in her time, I think that we do have people that know what they're doing in our community. So it's not like we're going to apply for these grants blindsided. We know what we're doing. We really do, I promise. So just to have someone in that community, just to name off the top of our head, is really a nice figure.
Other communities who have built YMCA-style recreational centers, like the one that we have proposed here with the indoor and the outdoor facilities, have they found other ways to pay for them. They've made bond measures, small sales tax increases, and fees for leasing different units of the facility. Now it's not something that we would figure out. Obviously, that we'd leave that into other hands, but that is just a few ideas, and those are a few things that other municipalities and cities and states have done to help pay and alleviate some of the costs on the community for building a center like this. So that's pretty much all we have. We're here to answer some questions for you, and going back on all the stuff that we've talked about, we've been approached in a fashion to where we've been asked to find a way to improve the community, bring the community together. And I think if you look at other communities that have done very similar things with these YMCA-style centers and providing more complexes for sports and activities and all kinds of different things, you will see that their communities have thrived in a whole number of different ways and on a very broad spectrum. And I think it would benefit the Upshur County and Buckhannon communities very well. I think it'd bring a lot of people together. So we're here to answer any questions that you guys may have as far as what we've talked about. So, the floor is open.
I'm Pam Perry, City Council. Do you have any idea of square footage that you're speaking of?
That is a very, very good question. None of us have actually gone to architectural school or anything like that. Square footage wise, I don't know, 50,000, that's pretty large, right? I honestly, I've looked at some of the figures for square footage for a facility like this.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but talking to some other community members that have proposed different places actually in Upshur County, comparable sizes, the old armory, something like that, only the first and second floors. Right now we're thinking the first floor would be about the size of the old armory to give you a visual, and the second floor maybe just half that, the quiet area. It doesn't need to be quite as big as the sports area, but just to give you a little bit of a visual, the old armory.
Yeah, I apologize. I did read figures on that. It probably would have been a good idea to include those.
I noticed one of your funding mechanisms was a sales tax. Of course, the county commission has no authority to issue a sales tax. I think possibly the city does in their own rule. But more importantly, a sales tax would be viewed as a regressive tax, because the majority of disposable income, people in low income, would be buying things to sustain themselves, groceries, things of that nature. So that would be an issue that would come up in terms of funding, that the people that are least able to afford money going into this from a sales tax perspective would be a regressive tax. And so I'm not saying that's not possible, but that's something that is, you're learning about government. Those are things that do have to come into consideration that impact people in the community.
That is an excellent point. I'm not really one for tax increases myself, but that was just an idea that other communities...
Your generation better get used to it.
Yeah.
Before we go on, can we give these young folks a round of applause? You did a wonderful job, and your objective obviously was met. You looked at what a problem was, you identified what it was, you went to your constituents, in our case, that's how we look at it, and you found out how you could solve the problem. Fantastic job with that. Before we start asking questions though, and I know that a lot of us, and particularly taxpayers, understand the ramifications of building such a facility, particularly when you started talking about fiscal. I think a lot of us in the audience and within the community understand the needs of the youth, and it's been something that's been building for quite some time. And I know that probably a lot of our people, our citizens in the audience as well, have been to our swimming pool that's been around for 40 years, and we know that that's on its last leg as well. So you're incorporating a lot of the needs that are going to have to be addressed sooner or later, and you're actually doing it into the group of people that could actually make that a reality in this case. Keeping in mind, though, as Dr. Rita said, and as we have mentioned before, that this is a long-term process. That first you have to get the recognition of the need. We're doing now at this point the same thing you just did. You went to your constituents, you recognized the problem, you went to your constituents. Now we have to do the same thing, and we're hoping with your presentation tonight and with the continued cooperation with the students and the high school that in the future we make this objective a reality for you, and not just you, but the community as a whole, because I do believe the citizens of Upshur County and Buckhannon realize the need as well for not just recreation for the youth, but for adults, and the need for a place for community attraction, community events. I love the fact that you put the conference centers in there, because again, that's something that could bring about a lot of different organizations together. A lot of the sports organizations need a place to meet to register their kids, soccer, baseball, football. So I just want to commend you on behalf of myself, and I'm sure the city council, and we'll have comments here in a few moments. But what I would like to do is go ahead and open the floor, and I know we just did questions, but maybe we should be a little bit more specific on perhaps the questions we ask our students. And let me lead off, for example. In your surveys, about how many students did you actually get from the high school and the middle school level? And how did you compilate those numbers?
What we actually did is we sent out a specific survey with for the high school. We sent out a survey. What would you like to see in a rec center? Because we had already had the idea of a rec center, so we wanted to know what to put in it. So we asked them very broad, what do you want to see? So then we had people send in, okay, I want to see a multi-use court, or I want to see a game center. And so then what we had is we had a few classrooms put that together in kind of a graph format, so that the student council could really see the numbers in a visual. Okay, this got a large number of responses, because oddly enough, a lot of people wanted the same thing, like the sports courts or the arcades. And so then we surveyed about 1,100 people. And then, of course, the teachers, that was another specific survey that we did. We asked them to number 1 through 5 what they thought were the biggest concerns in the community, and we had like the obesity and the inactivity and community involvement and things of that nature. And
to touch on what she said a little bit, we sent out the survey to our advisory groups, which is kind of like our homeroom, and we asked them, what are your 3 biggest things that you would like to see Buckhannon have? So they made a list of 3 different things and turned it into their advisor. Their advisor wrote down the numbers on a separate sheet of paper, and he voted as well, or he or she voted as well, being the advisory teacher, and then we collected those after that and configured the numbers.
Well done. County Commission members, I'll open the floor to your questions or comments.
Well, I have a comment. It's something that we've discussed. I think anybody of our current generation have seen over the last 30, 40 years at least, and maybe even more recently, a lack of involvement with citizens in government or civic affairs, civic organizations, volunteer fire departments. People have become more insular. We've become more into ourselves, and that can be identified for a number of reasons. I have a granddaughter, 19 years old, and there's times, and there's been a very difficult time sometimes when you're over the dinner table. I've seen it in restaurants, I've seen it in homes I've gone to visit, where people aren't communicating. These things become so attached to us that we refuse to let go of them and face people across the table and enter into a discussion. And it's what I've said earlier to Preston, that technology, and he actually commented, technology is great when it works. And I'm not saying that all technology is bad. We certainly benefit in medical and other advances that have been made, in education as well. But if we lose our citizenship, if we lose our ability to act as a society, to worry about each other, to go beyond just communicating through these devices. And I have to say, I've had it about a year. I didn't want to get it, but my family insisted that we're in the plan where everybody has to have the same thing. And when you do this, I find myself all of a sudden being a creature. I'm caught on this thing, like I complained about my granddaughter. I'm caught on this thing. I find myself looking into it every 15 or 20 minutes. I got to check and see what the news, what's happening in the world. And yet I might not know what's happening next door to my neighbor, or I might not happen to know what's happening in the city or the county. So I think having students engage, coming to the county commission, coming to the city council is the first step. And I will say something about the educational, my wife being a retired teacher and myself being having a degree, undergraduate degree in teaching and political science and history. We don't know our history, we don't know our civics. When Sputnik went up, I've said this a number of times, when Sputnik went up back in 59, 58, the race was on for space, and we put all our information, all our money, all our resources into technology because we had to beat the Russians. We were afraid. And what did we do? Scholarships for science, scholarships for engineering, scholarships for those areas. And what would they cut out? Liberal arts, civics. I don't know if we have a civics class, I presume we do. But how many are required, how many hours of civics or how many hours of social studies are required to get a degree in high school now? I don't know. I would bet there's more hours required for math, more hours required for science and civics. You could be the greatest mathematician, you can be the greatest scientist, but if you can't understand what your responsibilities as a human being and as a citizen are, then we're lost. We fail to keep that connection. So I applaud, I really do, anyone engaged and trying to get engaged, because if we're overcome a lot of the problems we have as a society, and we see this every day in the news, failure to communicate with each other across the board. If we can't communicate with each other, we're doomed. No matter how many of these we have, no matter how many of those we have, that we're doomed as a society because we've lost our connection with each other. That's kind of a long-winded thing, but that's how I've felt for many years, and I'm glad I have the opportunity to express that.
Thank you very much.
Way to go, JC.
Thank you, Dave.
I got a few comments. I get a
Mr.
chance.
Thomas.
Here's your chance. Oh, okay. Thank you for your presentation, and I'm on the city council. I'm Dave Thomas, and I'm known as an old curmudgeon sometimes. But and I don't want to dampen your enthusiasm. When you talk about spring of 2016, I think we really have to be realistic as a community, and that is just way too soon to try to even think about land acquisition and construction and so forth. I think one of the challenges that we have as a community, and I think JC, we have massive societal changes that are very disturbing from my perspective and from JC's. We're older folks, and I have grandchildren and children. The lack of volunteerism and so forth is, I think, really very unfortunate in our society. But there's really some issues that I think that have to be addressed if this is going to be a goal that's going to be achieved. First, I would not put a timeline on it quite so ambitious. 12 months, it's not going to be done. And that doesn't mean you should not continue to work with the city council and the county commission. But I think one of the issues we have to deal with is, you talk about grants, but I think the citizens within this community, the adults, have to understand how important it is to have a center-based community and do things like this. And I think we need to have a bond levy, quite frankly. It's going to be a PR issue. People, Preston said he didn't like to have tax increases. But if you want to do this, I believe you're going to have a bond levy. That's my opinion. And you have two issues fiscally. Not only the construction costs, but the operating costs. And what are the consequences? The city, for example, and the county has made a pretty substantial investment at Brushy Fork with a conference center. We spend quite a bit of money with Stockard Youth and so forth. So there are some opportunities there. Maybe we don't market some of the opportunities that we actually have for our students at the high school and the middle school. But I do think you have to look at those two issues, construction costs and operating costs. And I think I'm willing to pay some more money on my taxes. I'm willing to vote for bond levy, and I'm willing to go out and, for lack of a better word, campaign for it. And I think that needs to be done. And if the bond levy is not going to be achievable, I think there's some issues long-term financially that are going to be very, very challenging for you. But I appreciate your presentation, and continue to do it. And we need to bring awareness to this community that these things are very important. And JC, I appreciate what you said, because I have grandkids that are 11 and 12 and 13. The challenge is, I go in restaurants. I'm the only person in Upshur County that doesn't have a cell phone problem. but the people sit in restaurants and they're texting each other at the table. I mean, it's unbelievable. And we have some real challenges ahead of us. And I'm glad you're really thinking about this and making your presentation tonight. And Dr. Reed, I thank you for bringing this to our attention. Also, Joyce Becker-Harris.
Thank you.
Joyce Harris, thank you.
Well, we had discussed at student council previously about the PR side of it, and if we were to get a levy passed or something like that, we would definitely have to go out and talk to people about it. We would have to talk to the media. We would have to go around to people and talk face to face and get it out on social media. We would really need to get it out there and let people know what would happen if it passed, because that would be an issue.
To touch on both of your concerns, there is a lack of civic involvement from the community, and that's one of the things that we did address in here. Is there is a lack of community involvement, civic involvement, and one thing that would have to be done if a bond levy or bond measure would be passed. One of the biggest things that we would have to do is we would have to sell this idea, if you will. We'd have to do some grassroots door knocking and explain these are the problems that we have. These are the needs that need to be addressed, and this is how we can do it. Everybody, if you would, just try to pitch in. And another thing that we talked about is trying to center all the communities in the county together as one. And you would have a problem with somebody that, say, lived in Rock Cave or Canal Head or Hemlock, somewhere, out there. You would have one of those people. What if they said, well, how is this going to benefit me if it's near town, or something like that? You would have to explain to them that, we would figure something out, a way of transportating you there, or, this is how it could still benefit you regardless of what you think, And if we did that, I think that, if we did express the concerns that we have as students, and the ones that I feel you guys have as well as adults and as governing body members, that express those concerns to the citizens of the county and the surrounding areas, then maybe, this could be a very, very, very achievable goal.
Well said. And you might, and I'm not going to interrupt, I'll go to the commissioners here in a moment, but I assure you, if the citizenry were to come to our city council members or to the commissioners and be asking them or telling them by telephone or in person, it's time to look at a recreation levy or bond, we get enough of those phone calls or enough of those people interested in it, we're going to take action on it. I'll ask Commissioner Cutright or Commissioner Brady for their comments at this point, if you have any.
I think your kids have done a great job putting this together. I'd like to thank them for coming down this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brady?
I would also like to thank you. I think it is achievable, but I think to get it done, and the only way I can see, I agree with the city and the county does not have money sitting on the sidelines to ever accomplish this. The only way this would be accomplished is through a levy. And to get a levy passed, it's hard because every place you go today, people does not want to pay more taxes. The people that owns property and land is getting tired of paying taxes for everybody else. So with that being said, I think it is achievable. I don't think it's achievable by 2016. However, I have seen presentations, and I want to thank you because I think this was well done. I think you've got your point out, and we all know, the city, county, we all know that we would like to have a complex here. Steve Foster had a great plan for the armory. The problem is funding. You have got to come up with a way to fund this, and it'll have to be through
grants or levy, because I know the county commission doesn't even have the money to even think about starting this. Now, the city, they say they've got plenty of money and they don't have to raise taxes and stuff, you know what I mean? But the county, but you all did an outstanding job. And it does make me feel good to know there are several young people out here that has ideas, motivation to make Upshur County and Buckhannon a better place for upcoming youth and adults. Thank you on my behalf.
Thank you, Commissioner Brady. Councilwoman Kupari, have you got any comments or questions for on the presentation, ma'am?
I just want to say thank you, and I think you did an excellent job. Also, think I can see some future people in our government. But there is a need for this, and we've known it for a long time, and it is going to cost a lot of money, a lot of cooperation. But if we don't do something like this for the future of our younger children, we're going to have more and more kids out on the streets, getting in trouble, getting into drugs, and it's only going to get worse if we don't have something to offer them instead of hanging out doing things they shouldn't be doing.
And that's where our idea originally came from, is we wanted to fix the problem of nothing to do, because people do drugs and alcohol or just sit around and play video games, and that's a pressing issue in our community because there is nothing to do.
And I bet you didn't know I could talk. I work at Stalker Youth Center, and I bet some of you are thinking, well, what about Stalker? Like, we have Stalker. It's a very old building, and it's a very small building. We have 120 kids every single day ride the bus from all the elementary schools and the middle schools, and they come and we feed them and they do all this, and then we have Zumba and karate and all this other stuff. We just need a space that even they can go, like, instead of Stalker or moving Stalker to the complex. It would bring everyone together.
I gotta step out. Thank you guys for your time, though.
Thank you for your time.
Really appreciate it.
One last thing I have. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
One last thing I have is, when we started this, we looked at some of the figures and some of the estimates that we were given, and we kind of looked at a few different designs from other communities and other states and universities that have done the same thing. And the biggest issue, like you said, is the money aspect. And I think if with enough convincing and enough kind of preaching to the community members, we could explain, this would save you gas money. You wouldn't have to drive to Clarksburg or Morgantown to go do things like, use a community center. You'd save gas by doing that. If you use the conference centers, like you said, to bring in different organizations, then, you could have conferences and things there. And what would, how fun would that be to have a business conference in a nice small community like Buckhannon, rather than deal with all the traffic in Charleston and all that kind of stuff. But it would be cool to have that kind of facility. And if you did bring in those kind of people, you would see economic benefits throughout the town and throughout the community. And I think if you explain to people in the explain to them that in the long term, the possibility of this paying for itself, that could be questionable, but you would see benefits, So it's a hard sell, it really is. Everything's about money these days, and people are tired of paying taxes. I live with two of them right now, and that's all they talk about sometimes. But it is an achievable goal. Like you said, it's going to take a lot of door knocking. And that's all I can think of really. That's all I can think of really, is to talk to the community members.
Mr. Pugh, you got anything, sir?
Yes, sir. I love to pay taxes. I spent my life working with the public, first as county clerk here in Upshur County, and then 22 years in sales to government, municipality, county government. Most of my time spent working in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and the rest of West Virginia. But taxes in Ohio, come on, they're taxed to death. I'll tell you, I love paying taxes. I love paying West Virginia taxes because they're low. And by being low, we don't get a lot for our tax money here. I got to tell you that 40-some years ago, I was in the same position that you young people are here, working with the complex that's up at the high school right now. We needed a place for recreation for the youth, And I was much younger then, and I had young children, and we had to fight to raise that money. I was the treasurer of the organization. There was the only two people I can remember were Mr. Tom Dunn and Mr. Bill Phillips, businessmen in town who literally got together and pushed and pushed and pushed to raise the money. We didn't have a bond issue. We raised the money. We got grants. We got, at the time back then, we were getting 18% on our money that we had invested. And at the same time, we were paying 22% on the loans we had. So, you know, there's a write-off there. But the youth in this city and county are amazing. You young people are amazing too. Now, the only one I really know is McKenna. And I've known McKenna since she was talking in church in a little voice that some of us couldn't understand. But I've worked with kids all my life, with 4-H, with band, with show choirs, and been on too many trips with those young people too. And I'm still a kid. I really am. Baby boomers started January 1st, 1946. I was born January the 3rd, so I'm one of the original baby boomers. And we need something to do too. We're in the process here in Buckhannon of becoming a certified retirement community, which sounds kind of overbearing, of retirement. You wouldn't be certified to retire here, but no, that's not the point. The point is that to be certified as a retirement community, we need things for people to do. We need rec complexes like this one. We need a place for the seniors to go that doesn't close up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And the project that you have designed is just amazing. When Pam asked what the square footage was, I was going to ask that too, because you've got game rooms, and you've got places to play ball, and you've got a turf with a track around it, and I'm thinking, holy cow, this thing's going to be as big as the whole high school complex together. But whatever you can do, you can accomplish it. It can be done. You guys have a positive attitude, which is what we really need with all of the cities, not just Buckhannon. Buckhannon's coming a long ways. We are positive in Buckhannon. Buckhannon and Upshur County are known throughout the state and some of the other states around us as being a positive, forward-looking community. And it's all because of the people like you that want to get involved, the people that get involved with the Create Buckhannon, the Festival Fridays, the Strawberry Festival. On a less positive side, one of the more recent city elections, we had a 12.5% turnout. Now come on, people, 12.5% is going to tell the rest of you what to do? That's a little bit ridiculous, isn't it? So I appreciate what you're doing. I know there are civics classes there. We've had programs in the last 2 or 3 years. I know your sister took part in a couple of them too, that educated the students in county and city government and fire protection and a lot of other things. And we're going to continue that on a city level. And I hope and I pray that you and the student council and every other student in this county of Upshur and city of Buckhannon will strive to attain the goals that you're working for now. It can be done. Work at it.
Thank you, Mr. Pugh. Mrs. Simons.
Hi, I'm Robin Simon, City Council. I am so proud and impressed with the intelligence and the vision of our future leaders right here. And we, the leaders of the city and the city council, it is up to us to meet your challenge. You come up with the vision, the idea, and it is needed, very much needed, to save the children of our community from going out and doing things they should not be. And we would much rather them be the safe, secure, wonderful recreational center with the entire family. Mom, dad, the kids, everybody. So hopefully we can work together and come up with the funds, the location, work with you all, and make your dream come true. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mrs. Simons. Now, before I have my final comments and a presentation that I'll give to the president. I'll ask anybody at this point from the audience if they've got any questions, comments that they would like to give to our high school students.
Are the politicians finished yet?
They are not going to finish.
One thing you might have overlooked, and maybe I missed out on, is that the fact that that could be tied in with St. Joseph Hospital as a wellness center. Transportation, we've got a fleet of school buses, run east and west and north and south. Allocation of resources. The biggest boondoggle that I can remember in Upshur County is that airport. That was a waste of taxpayers' money. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your comments. Sir? Yes.
My name is Christopher Lujan. I spent 10 years in the United States Marine Corps. I grew up in Florida, but my family's from Weston. Had the dream of moving to West Virginia because I admire your state for a few specific reasons. Outside of paying state taxes, which we don't pay in Florida, so they ain't as low as Florida. But moving up here, I moved up here because of the specific reason that West Virginia is a very tight-knit community. What that affords you in some ways that you haven't mentioned here tonight is being 2 or 3 doorsteps away from the person that's a decision maker in an opportunity as far as networking goes. Everybody's connected supposedly 6 steps to somebody. You get into bigger states, it's usually 12, 24, or 100 it seems like to get through the door. In West Virginia, it doesn't take you that long. The other thing is security concerns. There's a reason your FBI center's here. There's a reason Greenbrier is in a resort that's more than a resort that we all kind of know about. There's a reason that the Navy has got its intelligence gathering facilities here. Your isolation brings security, okay? Now, as a 10-year United States Marine, I traveled to 33 countries, 17 with the government. Afterwards, I got out in 2010. I went to Southeast Asia and I was working with a business group over there. On the airplane ride over to Southeast Asia, Vietnam and Cambodia, I pick up Delta Airways magazine. There's a 6-page, center-page article about West Virginia, specifically on international businesses being brought to West Virginia. Now, the heavy hitters in this particular article naturally being Morgantown and Clarksburg, but realistically, I don't think your airport is the biggest waste of your financial tax resources. I think it's the most underfunded regional aspect of your tax resources. And something you've all failed to mention tonight is something that I was here for. Again, my family's from Weston. I bought the homestead for my grandmother, so every deer hunting season I grew up with my grandfather coming back here to our family. So I'm not as an outsider as you might think. But I was here for the snow-ins. I was here for the June Festival when things were shut down and people, were at a loss for electric, for water. And for being one of the most independent, Appalachianly strong historical regions that I admired as an Eagle Scout, which you also have the Boy Scout region here now in West Virginia. I've done a lot of different things, but it's hard for me to relate that without throwing some of these things out here. But I always looked at that Appalachian background as being self-sufficient. And I think a lot of people were caught off guard, especially our leadership in the communities, at the county levels, at the gas station levels. I mean, we had to kind of allow Walmart and Lowe's to sponsor loans that were able to save us and bail us out. When we have a community recreation center, when you have something in a central location like that, and you have an airport, and you have Mountain State, helicopters, trucking, those types of logistical things, those are the resources that provide you an immediate community response center, an immediate shelter. So when you get into community emergency response teams, which are something that kicked off by the Red Cross here recently, you have these community centers that can be educational hubs to educate people on those community type of concerns, and they can also be logistical hubs. So there's more grants than you might think, but more importantly is that number's not so great. I don't like paying taxes. I don't think you have to hit it up with a tax thing. I think you actually have an opportunity, and I want to ask the students themselves, my question is, when you sent out your survey about what did you want, did you ask how many students had intentions of staying in West Virginia? Because there's only 2 things politicians want to really hear. How much is going to cost, and they really don't want to hear that. The lower the number, the better, because they don't plan proactively to have money sitting on the side. If it's on the side, it's spent. But the other thing is, how many votes do you have? At 18, you're allowed to vote. And I hope you do, because I fought for that. And it really perturbs the mess out of me when I go to even a student council session at the college, which I'm here in Wesleyan. That's the reason I'm here in Upshur County, and I'm going here tonight. I'm also on the Student Senate there, Community Relations and Alumni member. When you approach student council, it's not just about learning your civics class or learning to be a career politician. It's about that electoral process. Campaigning is about getting those votes. Votes are about youth being brought up to participate in voting, but also to stay in a community. I think first and foremost, if you didn't ask, that's what I'd like to see on your survey, because that's something that's going to be a figure that matters to these individuals. When you say, we've got 1,100 people at the high school, 800 of them have got plans of staying at least for the first 3 years. That's 800 new votes. So that's the first question. And then the second question is to look into that emergency management piece and how your families were each individually hit and whether or not you felt like your community stepped up in that response. And the last thing is, with education, is languages. 6 pages in Delta Airway magazines on a flight to Vietnam. And I didn't hear about California, I didn't hear about Florida, I didn't hear about Washington, D.C., I heard about little old West Virginia. Nothing made me prouder. But at the same time, you've got to look at languages. Wesleyan College is a liberal arts college and they're only teaching Spanish. Spanish is great, but it's not paid because every third person speaks it. Russian, Arabic, these are the things we need. And those are where you have high financial players that'll come in here and build you this facility and purchase another 48 acres and have a workforce. But they're going to want to hear from young people. Because the world over, they don't admire the words of our politicians so much. And a lot of our politicians are getting older. So other countries look to how active are our youth and are they going to be there long enough, long term, to be the future? Is that on your survey? If it wasn't, will you go back and get that and deliver it to this council? And if so, how long do you think it will take to get those results for those questions that I just posed and get this to this council?
Thank you. Before we answer that, thank you for your comment, sir. First thing, let's answer his question on the two that we had. How many, you heard the 2 questions, and then this council does not necessarily need to have those comments back from you. I think, and I'm just going to delay you on that just to respond to something I heard there. We're not necessarily looking for campaigning for votes for our high school students, but as far as this issue is, we do with your parents. We do with the high school parents. We do with the middle school parents. Those are the people that we do want to affect the vote for this, not our high school students. So you may answer his questions.
I would just like to say that we're honestly not here to convince you. You all know that we have problems, and you all know that this would be a great solution. We're here to propose the idea as a whole, as the younger generation, because we do care, and we feel that our city cares and that our high school cares. And thank you very much. I think those are great assets and great questions. We did not ask those 2 questions because I feel that our high school is not always taken seriously. The students don't always think of Buckhannon as their home, and their plans change so dramatically on a day-to-day basis that the figure wouldn't actually be as accurate as we would like. And also, we're here to just kind of propose the idea. It's in the beginning infant stages. And this is a great idea to go back and propose that question maybe to the older seniors, which is just a fraction of the 1,100 students, and maybe ask them if they have their plans of staying in state at a college or in the workforce or a branch of the military, but something like that. And I would just like to say thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else from the audience? Yes, ma'am, please.
My name is Kay Long, and I'm the co-director of the Try This conference that Dr. Reeder mentioned earlier, that perhaps gave you the idea to go up to the high school. And these high school students are wonderful. They are our future. We are so pleased to hear that there was a ripple effect. This conference will be in Buckhannon again in June, June the 5th and the 6th. We invite all of you, and we want to make a special invitation to these young people. I'd like to talk with your sponsor about getting you to that conference because you are the best. You're the future of West Virginia, and this is exactly what young people should be doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mr. Calgar, sir?
I'm Michael Calgar. First of all, I'd just like to applaud you all again for an excellent presentation. Well, refreshing to see high school students involved in the community and concerned about their future and the future of the people who live here in our community. One question, have you presented this project to the Region 7 Council?
No, they have, to the Board of Education, they did a trial run, and I understand it went very well as well as you did tonight. So Region 7 would be the next option that we would look at as well in the overall scheme of funding. But as I think you've noticed, we're in the very fundamental stages, and this student council has taken so much to learn already the beginning processes to even consider such a facility, which is a lot of things a lot of governments don't even want to try to consider doing. So for you to do that is brave in itself. Go ahead, Mr. Calgar.
I encourage you to use this as a springboard, and I'm sure you'll get other involvement in the community. Thank you again.
Thank you. Unless there's any more questions, I would like to get a picture with the council and the county commission together, and I do have one presentation to give to the council, and I'll give it to the president on behalf of the mayor and the city of Buckhannon. This is a certificate of appreciation for the presentation on behalf of yourselves at the high school and the students on the recreation complex to the city hall. So congratulations on that. You did a fantastic job. Again, let's applaud our high school students. What a great future we have in store for us. At this point, I will go ahead and adjourn the city council meeting. And Mr. Rafferty, would you like to do the same with your body, sir?
Why don't you do yours first, since I started?
All right. Well, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the Buckhannon City Council. I have a motion and I have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I have a motion to adjourn Upshur County Commission. If so, I'd like to have a motion made. They do this to me every commission.
So moved.
There's a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you everyone for being here tonight.